Dear Rentals Club members, today I'm with Samuel Toribio. He's the head of international markets for Homelike. We'll be talking about Homelike because in the field of short-term rental, mid-term rentals, it's a pretty big actor in Europe. And you know what? There's lots to say about what they do, about how different the markets are within Europe. So without further ado, let's welcome Samuel. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Thanks for the invitation.
So happy to have you, and maybe Samuel, to maybe introduce yourself a bit and to tell us about Homelike. What do you guys do?
Well, I'm Samuel. I'm the responsible of international markets. So basically at Homelike, we are operating in 9 European markets, mostly in Western Europe. And basically my role is to make sure that we are growing supply and demand at the same pace. No? In regards to Homelike, Homelike is a platform focused on monthly stays for all those, let's say, bookings that go from over a month and less than a year. And it can sound very specific, but I can guarantee you that the audience and the supply and the demand side is very broad. And so the idea is that at the moment we have around 120,000 units in Europe purely focused on monthly stays. But the idea is to grow this category by adding different types of supply that we are going to go through a little more detail in a short time.
Samuel, I really like how you said that it sounded specific, but it's not that specific. And that's what I like about our industry, because actually that so many different actors grouped to, under the name short-term rental, mid-term stays, whatever that means. But let's be very concrete with Homelike. So you target, so you mostly do monthly stays. You go after long-term furnished apartments for expats, let's say, or working professionals, probably even more people than this. So could you tell us more about this market and maybe about recent trends that you've noticed?
Yeah, on the demand side, it's very difficult to answer your question, no? Because there are no public records on how many people move from one city to another or how many people move from one country to another, no? On a temporary basis. We have data on tourism, we have data on the residential long stay market, but when it comes to the monthly rental markets, it's a little bit dark, no? And some estimations, they said the global serviced apartment market is worth $48 billion worldwide. If we add on top co-livings, that we're going to talk about it a little more in depth afterwards, and property managers that are focused on midterm, we can add an extra 21 billion, which makes roughly the overall market worth $70 billion worldwide. Just to give you some context on this data, the GDP of Panama or Luxembourg is 69 billion worldwide, no? So we are talking about a market which is as big as the entire Panama or Luxembourg GDP, and when it comes to the impact on the economies, no? In regards to supply, we can be a little more accurate, no? So we estimate that in Europe there are 200,000 units focused purely on these monthly stays, no? The main markets are the UK on top, Germany, France, Southern Europe, Nordics, Benelux region, and then the Nordics and Eastern Europe, right? And some changes we've seen in the last months or years are very much marked by COVID, but also by inflation, no? The first change is the concept of plug and play. Tenants, they want everything included in one bill. They don't want to manage electricity, water, deposits, rent. So they are willing to pay more for the fact of not managing this kind of hassle, right? And also when it comes to tenants being more demanding is also the booking experience. So instant booking, platforms development, cancellation policies. So everything we saw developed in the touristic industry 10, 15 years ago is now happening on the mid-term market. The second change is affordability. And luckily, we are all suffering worldwide the effects on inflation, and tenants that are looking into monthly stays options are considering more affordable options. This is one of the reasons why co-living is on the rise, no? And because if I need to go to work for a couple of months to anywhere in Europe, I'm going to actually look for, let's say, a cheap option, no? A cheaper option than the expensive, penthouse in the center of the cities, no? So co-living is on the rise. This is one of the reasons, but also we see a lot of long-stay residential traditional players moving part of their portfolio into the mid-term market, no? due to occupancies, but also due to yieldings, no? Because at the end, the mid-market, you can rent out a little bit more expensive apartments because of everything I just told you earlier, no? Third main change is the development of secondary and third-tier cities. In the past, when we used to think about corporate bookings, not corporate stays, nomads, we used to think about people moving to Berlin, London, Paris, Madrid. But something we've seen after COVID is that digital nomads or remote workers, they're actually looking into other types of options, no? Cities with more quality of life, cities that are overall cheaper, that are close to the sea, that are maybe they're in rural areas. So we see a massive development, not only on the demand side, but also on the supply side, in locations where in the past it was completely unthinkable, not to actually see an entire building purely focused on monthly stays. And the last severe change that we see in the industry is data and technology. Now we see property managers focused on mid-term market, that they use revenue management tools very similar to the ones that a hotel does, no? Or like a pure touristic rental market company does, no? And that's a huge change in the industry, because at the end we are digitalizing something that has been completely offline until 2-3 years ago, and I expect that we're going to see the same impact that we saw in the short-term market very soon when it comes to the mid-term market.
So these are very sweeping changes and trends that you've noticed, and thank you for listing all this. It is, I mean, this makes this even more, like, I guess, so interesting that overall all these market changes to follow and to adapt. But I'm guessing that as you're present in so many countries in Europe, there's even more things to say about how different maybe even these trends or the size or what's happening in each market is. Maybe can you help us understand the diversity of the European market where Homelike operates?
Mm-hmm. Europe is a very complex market. It's very juicy, it's very interesting, because at the end, there is a lot of businesses, and also most of remote workers in the world are happening in Europe, and that's a reality. No, that's what the companies are allowing more, this remote working, this workation, and therefore the impact of the monthly stay market in Europe is massive. No, however, I would distinguish on a very high level 2 types of behaviors. No, countries with a tradition of seasonal touristic season, like Spain, France, Portugal, and Italy, and countries with a more stable demand throughout the year, like Germany, UK, Nordics, or Eastern Europe. No, and we see differences, especially when it comes to revenue management. No, so in countries with a tradition on tourism, suppliers or property managers are very much focused on securing occupancy in winter, even though that means maybe sacrificing some revenue and maximizing summer bookings. No, so we see a lot of stress on the departments of revenue or bookings, especially in this window between April and June. No, so as you can see, there's a lot of stress on those markets when it comes to revenue management. While on the other side, in let's say less impacted countries by tourism, like Germany or the UK or the Nordics, they are very much focused in overall yearly revenue management. No, so they are not that stressed on seasons, and they can play around a little bit easier when it comes to securing bookings or 1 month or the other. However, we are seeing changes, because with all the climate change, they say that the summer season extending in southern European countries, and countries like Germany and the UK, they're starting to receive a lot of requests from southern Europeans in summer. So we are seeing that these 2 trends are actually merging, and potentially in the future, and I would say unluckily from a climate point of view, we're going to see a more, let's say, standardized behavior in the entire continent. No, but if we go a little bit more on extreme cases, no, we see, for example, how Germany operates. No, suppliers in Germany are very much focused on the quality of the tenant. So they want a tenant that can fulfill their requirements. They are very strict on the booking flow, and on the other side, there's a huge rise on demand in Germany, especially in Berlin, which traditionally was a city with a very nice balance between supply and demand. Now, due to all the job explosion in Berlin, this has become like a massive attraction hub for talents. No, so especially in Berlin, we see a lot of pressure on the monthly stay market, but also in other areas of the country, no? And however, landlords, they keep, having these standards pretty high. On the other side, on the other extreme, we would see, for example, in Spain, and how suppliers, they're trying to navigate through winter, reducing prices, having like a very aggressive strategy on acquiring any type of tenant. So they are not that very picky when it comes to who they're staying. So they're allowing from digital nomads to really corporates, like really VIP corporates. But in summer, they actually are willing to maximize into the maximum these monthly rentals, no? So that's the two extreme cases we are seeing. And on the supply side, it's very, very broad. So we go from co-living operators, that is very common in Spain or in Germany, to apart hotels, which is a category that is on the rise, especially in France and in the UK, pure corporate property managers, for example, in the Netherlands or in Ireland, but also, as I mentioned earlier, this concept of private hosts, so long stay traditional players that they are moving to mid-term category, and therefore they are making the market a little more affordable while pulling a lot of properties into the segment.
That's a lot of, again, changes happening or differences even across the country. If I take the points, number one, we talk about the overall market trends, we talk about the differences in Europe, even these changes. How much of that is due, let's say, to changes in regulations? For example, in the short-term rental side of the market, right? We see regulations are becoming stricter and stricter. It has impact on supply. And we often hear people say, you know what, I'm going to stop with short-term rentals and go with monthly rentals because it's easier. Is it that true that it's easy? I mean, I'm just wondering on the aspect of regulation, how much does it play with you for a company like Homelike?
I would say that the mid-term category is a sweet spot at the moment, right? When it comes to securing some kind of asset, for alternative accommodation, not talking about long residential market. So Homelike is only operating on the mid-term market. And one of the reasons for that is basically the one you pointed, because legally wise, local legislations are very respectful with monthly stays, However, it is true that there is a new trend in Europe where we are seeing, especially in councils, like for example, Barcelona, Hamburg, Paris, becoming a little bit more strict when it comes to who can do monthly stays, because at the end they see it as some part of tourism. But overall, the overall trend in the entire continent is to let the monthly stay markets rule on its own. Why? And there are some reasons why legislation is that beneficial for monthly stays. The first one is the one I mentioned at the beginning of this chart, which is the impact. Okay, and it's a very niche demand. So the impact of the pure monthly or the mid-term accommodation in a city is very limited to the overall residential portfolio of apartments. We estimate that less than 0.05% of the supply in the main capital cities are focused on mid-term market. So the impact, let's say, on prices on the cities is very small. Secondly, we are giving the answer to a request in Europe, which is we want to attract talent, we want to attract international people, we want to foster mobility between European countries. You need a solution for that, Right. People cannot live for 3 months in a hotel, or tenants, they don't want to sign long leases of 5 years, paying deposits, paying the bills separately, if they are going to stay for 2 months, So we are giving this answer to foster international mobility, which at the end is one of the main purposes of the European Union or Europe as a continent, The third point is the impact of this kind of tenants on communities. Digital nomads, expats, people that are working remotely from one city, from 1 month to less than 6 or 7 months, we see that they have a positive impact on the local communities, which is one of the main pain points possibly of tourism in certain cities, for example, Barcelona. So this type of tenants that they are staying for 2, 3, 4 months in an apartment, they tend to be more respectful with the apartment community because they're going to live here for longer times if I'm moving somewhere for the weekend. But on the other side, they have a beneficial impact on the local businesses, because I'm gonna buy the bread in the local neighborhood. I'm going to actually buy food. I'm going to consume transport. I'm going to do leisure, maybe a little bit more high end that if I'm going to the traditional touristic entertaining, sightseeing parts of the cities. So we see this type of tenant is adding value to local communities, no? And that's why I think, on my point of view here, is that this is the main reason why say councils or states are seeing the monthly stay market as something very beneficial to their communities, and not as a lever when it comes to increase price rents in certain cities, or to generate, let's say, and not the appropriate atmosphere in a community, in a building or in an area. So these are the three main reasons why we consider that the midterm market is quite safe from a legislation point of view, and we actually expect this to be in the foreseen future, because the benefits of it is quite clear on the table.
Samuel, thank you so much for all these overviews. I mean, obviously your wealth of knowledge on the industry, on the topics, and I think you're going to be sharing your knowledge. You could be at the Vitur, which is a conference, Vitur Summit, taking place in Malaga in a few days. Can you tell us more about what you'll be doing and what Homelike is going to be doing at the Vitur Summit?
Vitur is a massive opportunity to throw a little bit of light into this, dark market, this hidden market of monthly stays. It's actually a place where a lot of property managers in Europe are going to meet, and I think it's a great opportunity also to educate, or to give some insights and the benefits of the monthly, of the mid-stay market, because I have the feeling that this is not very known, and I hope that also with this chat it gets to more people. And there are a lot of questions, when it comes to rent on the monthly stays market. So basically, our main goal at Vitur is to exchange with suppliers, to get to know them, so they get to know also the benefits of this market, and to answer their questions, and also, let's be honest, to have a little bit of fun, right?
I hope so. It's always so fun to meet new people at these kind of conferences, and because it's business, it's relationship, it's what we are in hospitality and hosting people, so it's all about relationship and people as well. Samuel Toribio, thank you so much. Once again, you're the head of international markets for Homelike. Thank you for your insight, and I meet you very soon, I think.